So the idea was having these smaller ones, it gives you a lot more ground clearance. From a styling standpoint, I find this brilliant, this whole circle here. Take a piece of paper and try and draw it, and you can't. So imagine making it out of metal. You know, it's pretty amazing the way it just goes around. It's such a beautiful piece of art. And this is kind of fun too. Let me show you where the spare tire goes. Voila. That's pretty cool. This piece just comes off. I gotta find some places to put it, but there's your spare tire right in there. I don't know where the jack goes. I guess the jack is underneath. Yeah, the jack's underneath the tire, but it's just such a clever idea. And see this, just again, when you put it back, you fit that right in there like this. Trying not to chip it. Goes into place, and then it locks into place. There's your gas filler right there, and of course the two little cathedral windows. Everybody sort of copied that split window. Corvette, certainly. I think when the guys are designing the Corvette, I think part of the inspiration came from this. When you realize this car was only 30 years old when they designed that new Corvette. It was less than 30 years old. So that's kind of interesting. Okay, but we had a couple of extra lights on there just out of safety. Obviously, no bumpers. You don't want to get hit in this thing. But I just find this whole design here of all the curves just perfect. You know, it's one of these things you could sit and look at for hours. There's just so much art here that it's just a wonderful design. It's just amazing that when you're designing an automobile, that you can be this creative, because it really doesn't look like anything else that was around in the day. When you look at the 30s, yeah, their cars were kind of humpy looking, but this, it's just pure design, and it's so Italian and French. You know, Bugatti was an Italian who lived in France, so I think both countries claim him, but France really, we used to say France was the birthplace of the, Germany was the birthplace, and France was the nursery where all the original good ideas came from. You know, Penard system and all that type of stuff. The French really led the automotive field in the first part of the last century. The trouble was, their laws became so restrictive that, you know, high-end, after World War II, they couldn't design any high-end cars. They had to be people's cars, like the little Citroën 2CV. They kind of ruined their own motor industry. But, you know, Citroën, Penard, I love French thinking, I love French design, and they just do such a wonderful job. Let's take a look at the inside. Well, I think it's one of the prettiest interiors. I kind of feel like you're in one of those Ford tri-motor planes from the 30s. Here's your key right here. There's your clock, temperature. You've got ammeter gauge right there, speedometer, tachometer, fuel, and of course oil pressure. These are advance and retard and a hand throttle. This is what they call gas. What this is a pump. Once now I have an electric fuel pump, but what you do is you open that, put your key in. That's your fan, and you got headlights and everything else in there. And you pump a little fuel, that shoots it directly into the carburetor. You've got a hand choke here, you've got your horn, handbrake, turn signals, and gear shift lever here. This gives you more air in the cabin, opening and closing like that. Let's see if she starts. Sounds pretty good. Let's take it for a ride. You know, this thing is so much fun to drive. You know, it's pretty fast considering what it is. I mean, back in the day, this must have just been unbelievable. You know, as beautiful as these cars are to look at, the real joy is in driving it. it. It really is an experience. It's just so sort of, it's just the opposite of like a big WO Bentley, you know. It's sort of light on its feet. It kind of dances down the road. Everything kind of moves around a whole bit, you know. It's really great. This car is so much fun to drive through the hills of Malibu. You know, nice twisty roads, nice two-lane roads. And obviously there's no power steering of any kind, but it's pretty light because you have this big wheel, you have these reasonably skinny tires. So it really makes it nice to handle. On a day like today where it's a little on the chilly side, you get a nice, just enough engine heat coming through the firewall to kind of keep you warm. Yeah, the summer it's not the greatest, but on a day like today, fantastic. I think the Type 57 like this, especially with its engine and transmission, the setup was going to save the company. It was fairly modern by Bugatti standards, you know, and John Bugatti was, I think, almost as equally as talented as his father. They built about, I think, a little over 700 of these twin cam motors, quite reliable and very powerful. Just hearing the gear wind and the exhaust note, very exciting car to drive. I sometimes get stuck in LA traffic for, you know, an hour and a half in this thing. It doesn't overheat, runs nice and cool. Just good, solid engine design. And aesthetically beautiful. You know, Bugatti, to be right, it has to look right. You know, since you only build 4 of these things, you don't really see yourself coming on the highway all the time, you know. Not like driving a Corolla. Oh, look, there's another Corolla, you know. But you know, the longer you drive it, the more you want to drive it, because you just get used to the sounds and the smell and the feel of it. Trouble with driving a car like this in LA is there's so much traffic. You've got mechanical brakes, and everybody pulls up next to you to talk to you while you're driving, so it gets a little crazy. But that being said, the brakes are actually okay, not bad. I'm not sure what the torque specifications are in this motor. I can't remember, but it pulls from way down low. I mean, you don't need to rev the heck out of it. Just not a car you see in the industrial part of town, you know? Big semis, everybody pulling up there, they can crush this thing like a bug. I don't understand having something like this and not driving it. I don't quite get why anybody would do that. I guess as art, I guess it's certainly enjoyable to look at. Sometimes I go in the garage and I just stare at it, you know? I mean, there's not a straight line in the thing. Occasionally she'll pop back through the supercharger, so you hear the pop-off valve. Disadvantage is the carburetor is at the bottom, so you don't want to go through a puddle in this thing or you'll hydraulic it. You just suck up the water and lock up the cylinder. But it really has the ethos of a Bugatti, you know. It's lightweight, it's quite flexible, spindly, powerful engine. I love this era when automobiles had nationalistic characteristics. Bentleys are tough like a bulldog, you know. Bugatti used to call Bentley's cars the fastest trucks in Europe, but they were built like tanks. That's why they were able to win Le Mans so many times. Bugattis are always like a spider, you know, very quick, fast. I remember one of the owners of one of these picked it up right before the war broke out. He got pulled over by the Nazis and he got killed in the car. Another couple, I can't remember his name, he got hit by a train. He and his wife, they died instantly. That car, the pieces were sold off to help build other Bugattis. There's a lot of stories about these cars, but the best one in the world belongs to Ralph Lauren. That one is really impressive. That's got the papers from day one. As I said, it's all Bugatti. It drives, handles, does everything the real car does. It just doesn't look like what it was. This is called a rebodied car. You just build a new Atlantic body. You know, some of these they built with Jaguar XJ120 engines, but this one is all Bugatti all the way through. So it makes it not quite a real one, but way more than a replica. In fact, if you use the term replica as an exact copy, that's what this is. Eric Knox did a beautiful job. They made a buck out of wood, the hand hammer. I mean, they just did an amazing job on these. And these have actually become quite valuable. I mean, they're worth 3 to 4 times what I paid for it 30 years ago. And I paid a lot. It took a while to get this car sorted. It sat in the collection for years and years before I got it. So we had to redo the brakes, a few other things. Just generally go over and tighten everything up. Not terrible, just a little recommissioning, but anyway. I hope you enjoyed this little ride in a piece of automotive history, and I think it really is. I mean, it's just one of the most fascinating, beautiful cars of all time. Even people who don't know anything about cars go, what is that? It's just so striking. It's so beautifully done. So, anyway, I hope you enjoyed our ride in this piece of history. We'll continue to find more history and hopefully take you out for a ride in it. So, thanks for checking it out, and we'll see you next week.